Wake up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world.
You know what a loser is? A real loser is somebody that's so afraid of not winning, they don't even try. Now you're trying, right?
Yeah.
Well, then you're not a loser.
You don't feel lonely? Not at all. I feel fantastic. I'll have friends again. Just all the friends I had gave up on their dreams. Every friend I had gave up on their dreams, so they never even started. They were just like, no, I'll take this low-hanging fruit route. I was like, why? What? And I was there cheering them on. Come on, man. They're all like, no, man, it's cool, man. I just want to be this. And you know what? You can't pull someone out of tar. If they want to be there and fossilize, it's not. I spent 15 years trying to invigorate people around me, and it's just like, ugh, ugh, ugh. And I'm like, that's it. And it sucked, because then all my friends were gone. And they're still just like, yeah, it's cool, I like what I do. I'm like, fine. And it's true. Everyone's entitled to live however they want. So, you know, now it's just me, solo. But that's cool. I'm not bothering anybody, and I'm streamlined.
If he could do it,
This isn't a movie.
he believed in himself. And you can too.
Oh man, you're gonna put it on me like that?
You can do anything that you want. You can get singing lessons, get a better job, make more money. You could be even like rich. You could live in the White House someday. You could be president.
Me?
Do what you want to do.
There's no such thing as being behind in life. There's only where you are on the path that you're creating. To be behind means to be behind someone walking the same path as you. No one is walking the same path as you.
My goodness, don't you remember when you went first to school? You went to kindergarten. And in kindergarten, the idea was to push along so that you could get into first grade. And then push along so that you could get into second grade, third grade, and so on, going up and up. And then you went to high school, and this was a great transition in life. And now the pressure is being put on. You must get ahead. You must go up the grades and finally be good enough to get to college. And then when you get to college, you're still going step by step, up to the great moment in which you're ready to go out into the world. And then when you get out into this famous world, comes the struggle for success in profession or business. And again, there seems to be a ladder before you, something for which you're reaching all the time. And then, suddenly, when you're about 40 or 45 years old in the middle of life, you wake up one day and say, huh? I've arrived. And by Jove, I feel pretty much the same as I've always felt. In fact, I'm not so sure that I don't feel a little bit cheated. Because, you see, you were fooled. You were always living for somewhere where you aren't.
Just because your eyes are open, that doesn't necessarily mean you're wide awake. You have to accept the reality that's in front of you, and that'll help you start to understand everything. So how about it then? Do you think you can do that?
What am I doing with my life?
I'm alive! I'm alive! Free yourselves! It's beautiful!
Ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are two words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like, you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick. We don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? We live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies. But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all. If a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it.
Never forget that watching isn't living. The hours you spend watching other people live is a type of sedation. And although great insights can be reached from consuming media. The characters you are bonding with are works of fiction, and if you aren't careful, you will be on your deathbed with a bunch of memories of adventures that never happened with people who never existed.
This culture specializes in toxic mimics. That's where you take the form of something and pervert the content. So rape, for example, is a toxic mimic of sexuality. It has the form, but the content is different. We could make a whole list of toxic mimics, and one of the toxic mimics here is this identification with the larger whole. That's been shunted off to a different direction, this identification. So part of what we're supposed to do is identify with our larger community. But that really only works when things are mutual, when the rest of the community is serving you as well. With civilization, we've been taught to identify with this larger whole that isn't us. I mean, a great example, the other day I was talking to a friend who said, we lost a lot of refineries in Katrina, didn't we? I said, I didn't know I had any refineries, otherwise I would probably be rich, you know? It's like, do I get the money from these or something? Or I have another friend who called me a while back and said, how much longer do you think we're going to be in Iraq? And I looked around and was like, I thought we were in Northern California. And it's like, no, Derek. How much longer do you think our troops are going to be in Iraq? I said, I got troops? No, that's great. Can I tell them to go blow up a dam for me or something? It's like, this is why I only call you about once a month, Derek. We're taught early on to identify with the system. I think that's one reason why we identify with it. We're taught all the time, we're doing this. It's like, you know what? We're not doing this. We're not deforesting. I'm not deforesting. I'm not doing it. And I actually oppose the people who do it and the organizations, institutions who do it. The organizations, institutions which do it. There you go. There's a problem. Calling an organization a who, and then calling a tree an it. If your experience, not your philosophy, not your thinking, not your heart, not anything else, if your experience is that your food comes from the grocery store and that your water comes from a tap, you will defend to the death the system that brings those to you because your life depends on it. If, on the other hand, your experience is that your water comes from a stream, imagine that, people used to actually drink from streams, and how quaint is that? And if your experience is that your water comes from a stream and that your food comes from a land base, you will defend to the death that stream and that land base because your life depends on it. But we've gotten messed up and mixed up in this system that where our lives actually depend on the system that is exploiting us. So many victims of abuse stay with their abusers because they're identified with the system, and they've been taught since early on that everything is about protecting that system. So it's the same. The system is abusing and destroying us, and we've been taught from very early on to identify with that system, because if we identify with the system, then we're fighting us and it, as opposed to simply fighting it, and that's much more difficult.
I don't care how long he works, and I don't care what he does. There is no job worth $2 million a year. That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year. Can you believe this?
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive? And when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor, he sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. He has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor. That's why they pay a player on a football team or a baseball team $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year. It is the Roman circus.